The Washington Nationals, the 6-2 Game 7 win over the Houston Astros as the Nats are World Series champions for the first time in franchise history, winning 4-3. Nationals pitcher Steven Strasburg earned MVP honors. He reflected on that honor with Fox.
You know, to be able to do it with this group of guys is just something special. You know, we didn't quit, and I love every one of those guys.
Strasburg, the first #1 overall pick in the MLB draft to earn Most Valuable Player in the World Series. Matt Napolitano, Fox News.
We're just hours away from the House voting on formalizing the impeachment process. The question is, will all the Democrats approve it?
Liberals like this measure, but it's a risk for moderate Democrats from swing districts. We're expecting about 228 hard yays. Keep an eye on 5 vulnerable Democrats who have not announced their position on the resolution itself. 4 are freshmen who represent districts President Trump won in 2016. Kendra Horn of Oklahoma, Anthony Brindisi of New York, Jared Golden of Maine, Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey, and veteran Democrat Colin Peterson of Minnesota.
Fox's Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill. The Chicago Teachers Union agrees to accept a tentative deal but won't return to class until the mayor agrees to make up the days that they were out on strike. Union President Jesse Sharkey.
10 days is a lot of days to make up. I don't think our members necessarily want to be working all through Christmas break any more than students want to be coming in at Christmas break.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot says the city gave the teachers a great deal. Now they're moving the goalpost.
Parents and students deserve better than this.
Classes are canceled for Thursday. That makes 11 days for the strike. America's listening to Fox News.
We can't buy this house.
What?
It has 4 bathrooms. Just think of all the bathtub rings, water spots, and stains, plus the cleaning products I'll have to buy.
Didn't I tell you? The house comes with a non-electric Connecticut water treatment system. We'll have clean, soft water throughout the house, protect the water-using appliances, keep the tub, showers, and sinks looking like new, and help our skin, hair, and clothes look and feel great, too. The house even includes a Connecticut drinking water system.
A Connecticut system in the house? We'll take it.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water. Konnichiwa! We'll be celebrating the 40th Japan Autumn Festival on Saturday, November 16th from 2 until 9 at the Governor Joseph Flores Beach Park. That's Ipao Beach Park. Parking will be available across Oka Payless with free shuttle service every 15 minutes starting at 1:30. Advance tickets available now at the Japan Club of Guam office located on the first floor of Pia Marine during business hours. The Japan Autumn Festival at Ipao Beach Park, November 16th from 2 to 9. Come join us. For information, call 646-8066. This message made possible by Choice Broadcasting.
The family of a victim killed in the mass shooting in Walmart in El Paso, Texas, sues the accused gunman, his parents, and grandparents, and the online message board 8chan. Angelina Englishby was one of 22 people killed in the attack. Fire officials lift most of the mandatory evacuation orders for the Los Angeles area where the Getty fire destroyed 12 homes. Fire Chief Corey Rose says most of that fire is contained.
Once we put our folks in there tonight and get more containment on that southern edge of the fire, we'll reevaluate that in the morning, and most likely we'll be able to open up some of that area tomorrow morning once we really ground truth there's full containment on that southern border.
About 26,000 people still evacuated. Firefighters tamped down half a dozen small fires across Southern California as gusty Santa Ana winds roared through the region on Wednesday. In Northern California, about 500,000 people who rely on PG&E are still without power as the utility keeps power off to prevent more fires. A former sports executive learns his sentence in the college admissions cheating scandal.
Jeffrey Bizak, a one-time executive for the World Surf League, was sentenced to 2 months in prison. His sentence comes 3 months after he pleaded guilty to fraud and conspiracy charges. He was accused of paying $250,000 to get his son accepted at the University of Southern California as a volleyball recruit, even though he did not play competitively. Bizak must undergo mental health therapy as part of his sentence. Speaking in court, Bizak apologized to USC students and his family. He must report to prison in January. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
And in Pakistan, a massive fire on a speeding train kills at least 46 people and injures 31. Government official says the fire broke out as some passengers prepared breakfast on a gas cook stove. I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
Hi, Hi, welcome to Chili's.
We are serving lunch combos for $11.99. Choose from a variety of mouth-watering entrees like our ranchero chicken tacos, beef enchiladas, quesadilla explosion salad, or the California flatbread. Pick a beverage and start your lunch with a choice of bottomless chips with salsa, a half salad, or a bowl of soup or chili. Experience the bold flavors at a great price with Chili's lunch combos for $11.99. Available Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Located in the Tumont Sands Plaza, second floor. Chili's, savor the moment.
We understand what matters to you because at Docomo Pacific, we're a family too. With the Now Family program, mom, dad, and kids stay connected on the latest devices the whole family can enjoy. For just $155 a month, get 3 lines with 30 gigs of 4G LTE data each, and endless use of your favorite apps without affecting your monthly data bucket. Add more, get more, save more. Docomo Pacific, better together. Some conditions apply.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to Tall Tales for Thursday, Halloween 2019, October 31st. Yes, here we are. I'm Daryl Taggarty. I'll be here until 6 o'clock, and at which time we'll all be heading out to the streets, right? Or home to receive the trick-or-treaters on this Halloween evening. And thank you very much for tuning in to Tall Tales. Nothing that you hear here is intended to scare, or to be horrifying, or to be hair-raising, or, the sign of the devil. Just to let you know what's going on and give you a chance to reflect on what it is that's going on right here in your community, and perhaps inspire you to become more involved, civically involved in the affairs of your community. You're certainly welcome to call at 888-8255 if something is on your mind that you wish to discuss or to share with the listening public, whether that public is on Facebook, on Facebook Live, or if you are listening on 93.3. Where are we? Real Joe.
Yeah, 93.3.
93.3. Why do I keep getting up in the hundreds? I think it's because all the radio stations, I'm surrounded by radio stations. I'm in one, and I've got 1, 2, 3 other studios across the hall here, and and there's no sign out front that says The Point. I know what The Point is, but, when you drive by, you don't see The Point. It's always been a curiosity to me. But happy to be here, and happy that you're here with us this afternoon. Don't have anything for Second Amendment. No, I don't have anything for Second Amendment. I thought there was something here. Nate Horn is saying, anyone going without sleeves and a sign saying the Second Amendment? Without sleeves. Nate? It's a comment on Facebook Live. Is anyone going without sleeves and with a sign saying the Second Amendment? Okay. Maybe some of you got that one. Maybe I'm focusing too much or being too literal. But go ahead and toss them at me, and let's see what we all think. How we find these things. Last year, I was trying to find a picture I could share with you of my costume from last year, and nobody saw it. except the people who were driving by around my dad's house around maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I took a couple pictures just by setting my phone on the bumper of the truck and then driving by. And basically, and maybe someday you'll see this. I would love to have done this afternoon, but couldn't really pull it off. It was just not in the cards. And basically, it's my bicycle, which is a recumbent. So my feet are in front of me and I'm sitting on a seat. But I was dressed in a black dress. And my bike is decked out like a broom. And my bicycle helmet has got this 3-foot wide witch's hat on it. And my face has a mask that has a beak that's about a foot out from my face, a silver beak. And my hands are down, because the handlebars are not up in front of me, they're under the seat. So my hands are down, and I'm just cruising down the street, just laughing my butt off. If you can imagine that. And if I can find the video, we'll see about posting it tomorrow so you all can see here on Facebook Live on Tall Tales. But I couldn't. Oh, right to bear arm. Thank you. Yeah. Right to bear arm. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if the kids would understand that. But the listeners of Tall Tales would. So, now that we have covered the Second Amendment, and I've checked and I didn't see anything from our Bob that was suggested to me to bring to you today, so we'll just jump straight into Zam E. Kotny. Okay, and the PDN today has an editorial, a guest editorial from USA Today editorial board that's entitled Virtue in Culpability. Facebook doesn't have to run political lies. And I'm very happy for them. Thank you very much for letting us know what USA Today thinks. Although I really, really, really value what you think. Because you're my neighbor. Not in the, I guess in the Mr. Rogers sense, but also just because you're my neighbor, in a literal sense. So Guam Daily Post editorial today is entitled, Should Our Elected Officials Work While They're Under Investigation? How about putting it this way? Should they be paid while they're under investigation? If I if I accuse somebody of something, does that mean that they don't get a paycheck for the next, until whatever the process is exhausted? Boy, I could really do something here. Anyway, this is how the Guam Daily Post editorial reads today. Just a few days ago in the nation's capital, Katie Hill, one of nearly 24 millennials elected in the U.S. Congress in this term, resigned from her seat. Her resignation followed a House Ethics Committee investigation on her alleged affair with 2 subordinates. Actually, it didn't even follow it. I think the investigation was still going on. Hill's case has, to a certain extent, a ring of familiarity to the same committee's recently confirmed investigation into Guam's sole voice in Congress, Delegate Michael Nicholas. Nicholas has been accused of having been engaged in sexual relations with a woman he has hired on his congressional staff. He also is accused of misspending campaign donations to pay off his credit card balances and for trips with his alleged paramour. Nicholas has called these allegations, first made public on social media, as distractions and dared his accusers, quote, if anybody thinks that I am having an extramarital affair with a staffer and that's against the rules, then file the complaint. His former senatorial chief of staff did file a formal complaint with the Guam Election Commission, and another complaint which mirrors allegations filed locally was filed against Nicholas with the House Ethics Committee. Yet, unlike Hill, who gave up her congressional seat, Nicholas isn't planning on taking leave from his elected office while facing the Ethics Committee investigation. In addition to the previous complaint filed separately by his former senatorial chief of staff, John Paul Manuel, before the Election Commission. St. Nicholas appeared surprised recently when the Guam Daily Post asked him if he had plans on taking a leave of absence while he's under scrutiny. Why would the Post ask? He questioned. He dismissed the allegations as distractions and stated people expect him to stay in office. Quote, "Our people are depending on us, and we need to stay focused and engaged," St. Nicholas said. Another elected official, indicted Joint Mayor Jesse Mendiola Blas, also plans to stay in the job even as he's accused in a federal indictment of using his public office to accept bribes or ask for money in exchange for an alleged drug-dealing operation's access to mailboxes under his office's control. While the mayor has been held behind bars since Homeland Security, Postal Service, and FBI agents arrested him on September 24th, he has been clear about his intentions to keep his elected office. An audio recording of Blas saying he choked his then-girlfriend, who faces local drug possession charges, and threatened her about his alleged, quote, connections in the local judiciary was played in court this week. In a hearing on Tuesday on the mayor's request for release, an attorney for the mayor said Blas, quote, would like to continue to work as mayor, end quote. Dismissing the case against Blas as mere allegations, the mayor's attorney suggested that if Blas is released and told to stay away from the mayor's office, he should still be allowed to work from home or with a third-party custodian and be in touch with constituents by email. While not all elected officials have the stamina to stay in their elected offices while under clouds of doubt, St. Nicholas and the Joint Mayor have shown the Guam voting public they're not the kind who quickly step back. In the end, it doesn't really matter whether St. Nicholas stays on the job while under an ethics investigation or the Joint Mayor wants to work from home while facing serious federal charges. At some point, the House Ethics Committee will reach a conclusion on St. Nicholas, and in the mayor's case, a jury will eventually decide his fate. They are presumed innocent until proven otherwise. What their cases do show to the public is that some elected officials prefer not to retreat from their public roles, even momentarily, while their issues remain unresolved or whether their continued stay in office could affect the investigation into them or the case. Jesuit priest Father Fran Hazel once wrote in a Post column that in life, a sense of shame was an essential moral compass. He pointed this out months ago, before the St. Nicholas and Blas issues of trust came to light. An elected official's insistence on staying on the job while under investigation is his choice. It's also the voting public's choice to say whether they're okay or not okay with it. That's the Guam Daily Post editorial. Should our elected official work while they're under investigation? And it's a follow-up to some other stories. There was a story in the Guam Daily Post that appeared 3 days ago. The story, Under Ethics Probe Delegate Doesn't Intend to Take Leave. And also the story about Delegate St. Nicholas seeks Medicaid for freely associated state migrants. And so before I talk about the editorial, I am going to talk a little bit about this story, because I mentioned him the other day, and yesterday I think, about why he was not on the job. Because it was 6 days later when he let us know that he was supporting this bill and about extending Medicaid to FAS citizens residing on Guam. And I pretty well criticized him for it, didn't I? Well, I went online and took a look. I found H.R. 4821. It's called Covering Our FAS Allies Act. And it was introduced on October 23rd by Representative Tony Cardenas. And it was referred to the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. And Representative Cardenas sits on that committee. And I took a look at the original co-sponsors listed for the bill, and Mike St. Nicholas is an original co-sponsor of the bill. So I stand corrected, and I'm happy to hear that because I was questioning whether he was on the job, because he was only publicizing that the bill had been introduced after 6 days. 6 days. Well, I guess he's distracted, isn't he? And to be fair, I took a look again on the same site, congress.gov, and found H.R. 2982 covering our FAS Allies Act. And this was introduced on June 21st in 2017, so 2 years ago. So apparently by Representative Colleen Hanabusa of Hawaii. And it had 8 co-sponsors, and among those co-sponsors included Delegate Madeline Verdalio. So apparently this is something that has to be put in bill form in order for Medicaid to be benefits to be extended to FAS citizens who are resident anywhere in the United States. And so it has to be done. The pause that refreshes. Thank you, Real Joe, for the reminder. It's 4:20, and I am after taking a look at this, I want to commend Delegate St. Nicholas for staying on top of this work. It's routine work, but he does have to stay focused, and he has to stay in the game, which he would not be if he was running from his office in shame. And so let me talk a bit about this editorial today in the Guam Daily Post. 2 things really caught my eye. And one is the statement, in the end, it doesn't really matter whether St. Nicholas stays on the job or the Junior Mayor wants to work from home. And then elected officials' insistence on staying on the job while under investigation is his choice. Strange. Anyway, these are my comments on it. I don't see any anything on the phones. Let me see if there's anything on Facebook Live about this in particular. Let's see. No, not in particular, but I'll get back to the comments in a bit. But on Facebook Live, but they don't have to do with this editorial. So let me share my thoughts with you, and then that may spur you to the phones, 888-8255, or it may have you comment on Facebook Live. And let's see, my video has stopped, frozen. Let's see why. Taking a look at this. My goodness, what happened here? Okinawa World Heritage Site burns down. I'll get to this in a moment, but I'm actually trying to get back onto the Point Live. And let's see. There we are. Okay. I agree with Father Fran Hazel about the sense of shame being an essential moral compass, and that each of us has within his or her own threshold of whether the concept of shame attaches to anything, right? Some people would consider Mayor Bloss's and Delegate St. Nicholas's actions commendable, something that they themselves would do in the same situation. The problem only arose just because they got caught. Those are personal standards applied to others. When the others, whose behavior we judge are elected public officials, the standard we must apply as citizens is whether the official is acting in our interest on the job, while on the job, or not. The criminal justice system and House Ethics Committee will determine whether the facts disqualify these elected officials from continuing to hold their respective elective offices, and then uphold or override our election of them. We elected them to work. Can they continue to work? That's up to those other systems, not up to us. If the charges do not involve their performance in office, like Mike St. Nicholas, he can keep working whether we citizens like it or not. When the charges speak to their actions as officials, as in Mayor Bloss, it may be prudent to isolate them from their office staff and witnesses, or even detain them in the public interest and for the sake of justice. Long story short, we may have an opinion about whether they should continue to work, but the answer depends on the kind and severity of the charges and the institutional procedures they face. It has nothing to do with their own sense of right and wrong, or their own tough-mindedness to forge ahead. They put themselves in a position where they're going to be judged by within their institutions, whether it's criminal justice system or the House Ethics Committee, because they weren't paying attention. It doesn't have to do with shame. It has to do with whether they're paying attention to the rules of the road. They're public officials. We can talk about them all day long and in any way we want. Maybe even say things that aren't true about them, and they can't say anything because they're public officials. Now, whether they should stay in the job or not is whether we need that job done or not. But it's not up to them whether they keep the job. It's up to the criminal justice system, and it's up to the House Ethics Committee. And that's a higher authority than you and I as voters. That's the part that should concern us. We have other elected officials. Are they doing for us while they're in office? Are they violating any ethics? Are the ethics rules set too high so that they don't have to worry about tripping it over any boundaries? But they can just slip right underneath them and claim to be pure as the driven snow? Are they working for us? That's the standard as to whether they should stay in office or not. And we only get a chance at that every 2 years. I think we need to take our responsibilities much, much more seriously and know our candidates better. And for people who know what's going on behind the scenes, we expect them to speak up sooner and not wait. Because we have no idea whether these details were being used as a form of blackmail. If you don't do this, I'm going to talk about you, about something I know. Well, they should have been talking about it anyway. They should have told us before the election. Not because of politics, but to save us this kind of stuff. We didn't need to have this stuff come out after the term had already started. We needed to know this before we voted. They weren't doing anyone any favors by waiting. So these are people who are already in the know, walking among us. You may know stuff about people who are in office that you should have told us before we voted. You may know stuff about people who are preparing to run, and you should be telling us if there is an ethical or a criminal shortcoming, so that we don't waste our votes and waste our time. Making fools of the rest of us here. So that's that. But no star. You know, I think the Guam Daily Post can do better than that. That's a very superficial question about whether they should stay in or take leave or whatnot. You know, yesterday, what was it? Yesterday, 2 days ago, we're talking about whether elected officials should have leave or not. They get paid anyway, whether they show up for work or not. It's whether they're only going to be removed for cause or in the next election. So, going on to let's see, maybe today I'll be able to get to, well, I'll skip over excavating the point, but let's go on to the card. It's 4:30. So, Real Joe, let's take a break here, and we'll come back, and we'll start the card as intended by Bob since how long ago?
Did you know that home loan rates have plunged again? Would you like to take advantage of these lower rates to help lower your monthly payments? Refinancing doesn't have to be for another 30 years. It can be for 10, 15, or 20 years. It's up to you. Reduce your monthly payments. Pay off your loan earlier. At Bank Pacific, where we're open to closing your loan in a hurry.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Credit conditions apply.
The wait is almost over. The incredible iPhone 11 is making its debut at Beyond the Box in Tumon tomorrow. Be the first to experience new multiple lenses for dazzling photography options, low light, slow-mo selfies, 4K video, and way more new features. iPhone 11 sports longer battery life. Go all day on a single charge. This is the smartest iPhone ever with the A13 Bionic chip, 8.5 billion transistors, up to 1 trillion calculations per second. Give this iPhone the power to record 4K video, HDR at 60 frames a second, while boosting energy efficiency. What are you waiting for? See the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max tomorrow at Beyond the Box in Tumon by Underwater World across DFS.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Absolutely. Taking a look at some of the comments on Facebook Live. Today's comment is, today's theme is Happy Halloween. Candy corn is for losers. Well, does that mean that if I like candy corn, I shouldn't run for office? I like the flavor of candy corn. I know how much sugar it has, and I'm not a sugar person, but I like candy corn. I don't know why. Maybe it's just whatever the flavor is there. Ishmael Velez says, Happy Halloween, everyone, everybody. Saw Lou LG in a costume today, dressed as a governor. Yay! All right. What a nice comment. I like that. And then Nate Horn says, what type of work can be done from a cell with no phone or internet access? Why should he be paid while behind bars? Well, Nate, he gets paid anyway. Because that's offices, people who are elected, let's see. People, when we elect somebody to office, or when we create the office, whether it's a classified job or an unclassified job, the job either says it's a 40-hour-a-week job, or it just says you're going to start on this day and you will end on this other day. Or it says you work at the pleasure of the governor. Okay? And your salary is this. If you are on hourly wages, then you have to show up and be there from 8 to 5. And you're supposed to get overtime if you go beyond 5 or, beyond your scheduled shift. But when you're on a salary, you work, you get paid because you're doing the job. And elected officials are qualified by the Guam Election Commission because of our votes. They are certified, they're given a certificate, an actual physical certificate of election by the Guam Election Commission that authorizes for them to draw the salary for the term. And so they get paid. whether they're good or bad, they can be fabulous, way, way more than we expected. Or they could be that proverbial lump of coal in the Christmas stocking. And we just have to live with that lump of coal for the next 2 years or 4 years. Only good to burn, to toss in the fire. But you know, it's just the nature of the work. That is how we proceed. Yeah, I just lost my Facebook Live, but let's see. We'll get this back here. And so, good questions. I saw that. Okay, that is not. Let's see. Okay, here we go. All right. And then Sherry Iriarte is thinking. Good. Thinking is good. And then Nate Horn says, if he is found guilty, does he owe the taxpayers for the time spent behind bars? No, if he's found guilty, then return back to the law, and it will say that upon that your qualification for holding an office is dependent on what's stated. So if he is convicted of a felony or a crime of moral turpitude, then he is ineligible for the office and he is removed from office. And there's another process for that, but it's not a long process. It's pretty much a matter of just filings. File the court decision with the Election Commission, and then they rescind the certificate and no more payments made to him. But how could he work from a jail cell? There have been high-profile criminals who have conducted continuing criminal enterprise from a jail cell. As long as you can communicate with your lawyer can issue instructions, and he could be provided with a laptop and he could just issue, just send a thumb drive back and forth. Print this out. It's there's a stamp. Just put a stamp on this on the paper. Have the lawyer do it, or have the staff do it. This is from the mayor. From the attorney brings it to the, and have this all above board. He can work. He can conduct business. He just can't be in contact with witnesses, constituents, not in direct contact, but he could perform the duties of his office without actually going out there. This maybe is a good way of looking at how necessary mayors are. This is a really good example. This is a working example of how necessary it is to have a mayor in a village. Just look at the village of Jotnia right now. Are there people, are the dogs, are stray dogs running loose in the streets? Are there pigs invading garbage and farms on the outskirts of the village? Are there choral deliveries and people directing traffic during funerals and rosaries? Are there chairs being lent? Is there somebody to answer the phones and say, mayor's office, and is there a response? This is a good time to take a look at all that stuff. Seriously. I'm only getting like 4. I see myself moving, but I don't see any more comments, and that's all right. But that was not what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about the card, but I've got a phone call coming in. So let's go ahead and take a look at, listen to what's going on. Welcome to Tall Tales.
How you doing, Daryl?
Good afternoon. Who's this? I can't see the phone number.
Francis.
Francis, hey, welcome. Happy Halloween.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Well, my grandson's got an appointment tonight. I don't know if they're headed to the mayor's or down to that legislature, because I know they had one at 4:30 or
What, a horror show?
30.
A haunted house?
Boys, the boys down there came out with something. So.
Well, that's not what we pay them to do. That's a session. What are they doing taking time? If they've got time to organize a Halloween get-together.
Here we go.
I thought, wasn't there one on the mall? You know, not the mall, Skinner Plaza?
Yes.
With a beer truck and all that good stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, we can ask Ray tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
But, I mean, why? A block away is going to be a thing, right? Why would the legislature employees have enough time to do that? We pay them to do that? That's, and we're worried about whether we pay Mayor Blas of Jonia.
Oh, shit.
How much money we're spending on the legislative staff today to do things that they're not even supposed to be doing out of an office.
I think it was out of pocket there.
Oh, how could it be? If it's out of pocket, then they're going to have to do it from home. They're not going to be doing it from the office.
You have a point. Hey, you're on the point.
And I used to I used to work in that building when it was brand new. I mean, I am just, I can see it in my mind. I can understand you come to work and you're dressed up and you're working. You're doing your work. No big. But to organize something that has nothing to do with the conduct of government business? This must be Halloween.
It must be.
And this must be considered normal. And this is the way we run our government. I think a little later in the show today, I'm going to be talking about a letter today from that appeared in today's paper from Ken Leon Guerrero, and he's like, it says, what is it? Pragmatism says Guam isn't ready for a status change. This is the kind of stuff, putting up with this kind of play government is why nobody's taking us seriously when we want to do like real government. Because we're not running a real government. We're running a Mickey Mouse government. And I'm being both serious and amused because I've worked in it. And I'm highly qualified to work in it. I still am. I still got my head screwed on straight and my legs work. And my arms work and I can get from my house to the office. But I'm not working in it.
Darryl, maybe it's I wanted to talk to you about Mayor Blas.
Yeah, it's Halloween.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Was he's got several indictments on him, and I was looking at something here where the P.O. box was involved. So that is federal already.
Well, these are charges brought in federal court. We're talking about his connections in the local court, but that is a fact. That is a point that is going to be investigated by federal officials. Remember what I was saying a little earlier about doing something that puts you into the brings you within a process? You do something and you become a person of interest, and then they come and they say, we need to take you down to a court and tell you what we think of you, and then you're going to enter the process, and then you have you retain all your rights and you're not guilty. We're just going to be looking at you for the next couple of months because what we think you did isn't allowed by law. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
he got caught up in that thing.
Oh man, that was his own work, his own doing, and his indictment is going through right now. But when the day comes that they have enough and he gets convicted,
Well, if he does.
Man, let me tell you, he's going to be a world of shots. You know what I mean?
But until then, he gets paid.
Well, I don't know what that's. Maybe that'll supplement some of the. Does he have a family, kids like that?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been looking at, and I'm not from Georgia.
Oh, you don't rule, huh?
No, somebody else rules there. I know, and do we need rulers? The only ruler I need is the one that's either 1 foot or 3 feet, and then I can go to work.
Hey, all right.
I don't need princesses.
Look at my language.
I don't need 10 princesses and a queen and the assistant queen.
There you go.
I need people to work. I need people to show up and do their jobs. Because, and what puts me in position to say this? I don't say this about the head of black construction. I have no right to say this about the manager of this radio station. It's none of my business. Yeah. But when somebody says, "Believe you me, I can do the job for you, please vote," and then that person goes in, I can say it. I expect it. And my opinion really counts. Or they have to communicate better what they're doing.
Exactly.
So, I love this microphone.
Hey, you sound better.
It's the biggest. I am better. My eyes are still a little bit, still a little grainy, but I am better. And so, and you know what it is? I got like 10 hours of sleep.
When's the Ong coming back?
He's coming back before Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's probably about a month from now?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope he's doing okay.
Yeah, me too.
We have some legal questions for him. Finally comes around.
Yeah, and I want to hear his perspective on these matters. I mean, I even asked him while he was here whether he would just call in and weigh in on these, give us his perspective on some of the issues that are coming up on the day. But he declined. He said, no, just go ahead and do the show, and because I love hearing his perspectives. Even I told you I was working for another senator when he was in office as a senator, and I loved hearing him. And I'd go up on the street and I'd tell him, "Man, I love hearing you talk. Just keep talking. Even if I'm not of your same party, man, I love hearing what you say. I love it. I love it. Don't be quiet. Don't hide."
So good. It's so good. Some of the guys were wondering about the Bloss-Case in Lanham and if there was distribution there, and one was asking me, were there kids involved or high school? Like, oh man, let's not even go there because right now he's down. He's being confined right now, so I don't know what's happening. So I don't hate the guy. It's just that when he finally comes around, sad story, man.
It is sad, and on a personal level, person to person, I don't want to see him. I hate to see anybody get, on the wrong side of the law. But that law enforcement officials, police and postal inspectors and FBI and revenue agents and all these people, right? All these people we pay for them to be there to protect us, to protect our interest. And so if you get in a position where one of them has the right to grab a hold of you and detain you, well, then you're doing something wrong, or you're not able to explain yourself well enough. And nobody should put themselves in that position.
Yeah, you're right. I wanted to read Ken's article today, but I just didn't have time. We were so busy today, but I guess I'm going to read it tonight, and I got the paper, so.
Well, if you can stay tuned, I will be bringing it up because basically he's answering to Robert Underwood's column from last week.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring both of these and I'm going to put them up together against each other.
Sounds good, brother. We'll be listening.
Thank you very much, Francis, for the call.
You're welcome.
And we got line... before I go to you, line 2, hang on. We're going to take a break here, and I'll come right back to you.
November 7th is Leadership Day in Guam.
If you want to add value to people, you have to know and relate to what other people value. You see, great leaders are first of all listeners, and then they're learners, and then they're leaders.
The voice of John C. Maxwell, who leads a team of world-class speakers to help you succeed. It's a day full of big ideas, fun, and high-level motivation. Registration closes this Friday. Get the details at guamtraining.com and prepare for a big boost into 2020. Live to Lead is brought to you by Atkins Kroll, Guam's #1 car dealership. Also by Personal Finance Center, Hawaiian Rock Products, the Guam Chamber of Commerce, Guam Contractors Association, the Guam Daily Post, and by 93.3 The Point.
How do you grow a company? You grow a company by growing people. And when you grow them, they increase their capacity. When they can increase their capacity, they begin to increase the capacity of what you can accomplish.
Energize your team. Join the 2019 Guam Live to Lead Conference.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And there's the, I finally got myself access to the comments on Facebook Live. I've been kind of bouncing in and out. Peter J. Santos for Halloween is going as a pregnant 40-year-old virgin man. I'm trying to wrap my head around what kind of immaculate conception that would be. But that's the visuals that come along with being in Halloween. Line 2, you're on the air with me. Thank you very much for calling Tall Tales.
How's it going?
I'm doing fine. I can't see who you are, so you have to. If you want to let us know who you are, that's fine. If not, let her rip.
James from Manila.
Hi.
Well, I had a comment about Mayor Bloss. Okay. Let me pre-qualify my opinion here.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
And I'm totally, that's one of our core constitutional rights and values. But, and this is, there's always a but when a public official, a law enforcement agent, etc., is involved with these types of allegations, there has to be a little bit of common sense applied. And, a judge looking at what's being presented by the prosecution, by the police, and then even a halfway decent defense attorney,
mm-hmm.
If this is a really, really weak case, then sure, give the man bail and let him out, and he can follow through with the process that everyone else has to follow through.
Mm-hmm.
But evidently there must be, and I say must be, a really good reason for them wanting to hold him, okay, which would substantiate the hypothesis that there is relatively significantly relevant evidence against him. And just because he's a mayor, or if he was a senator or a governor, it makes no difference. He's not special, okay? He's just like everybody else who walks this world on 2 feet, okay? And he shouldn't be given any type of special treatments. I had heard somebody mention something about, does he have a wife, kids, family? Hey, I know lots of drug dealers that have wife, kids, and families. And I felt sorry for them because they either made the choice to be associated with, or in the case of the children, they didn't have any choice. But that, there again, just because you've got a family, look at all the drugs, look at what it does to our families. Look at what it does to our children. Look at what it does to our entire community as a whole. And there again, that does not rate special treatment. In fact, our elected officials our police officers, our enforcement agency, employees, these people should be held to a higher standard because they're supposed to be setting the example, not being the example.
Right.
So if they've got significantly hard evidence and they don't feel that there's a good reason to give him a reasonable bail and, let him go and let him go back to work, hey, just because he's the mayor, that doesn't really cut him any extra, goonie points because he's the mayor.
Well, isn't there...
If he's really done what he's been accused of, man, they should throw him under the jail.
Well, isn't there...
He used his office. Yeah.
But you see, even if you... if you just look at what we know, because it hasn't all come out. All the charges haven't been laid out there. But
right.
But you see, there must be...
down on top of it.
There must be a reason why he's being held. Because even other people... if there was no expectation that he would be that he would flee, that he would try to contact witnesses, or that he would himself be put himself in danger, in order for other people who are of interest in the investigation to get him, because he may be the nexus between them. If there was no underlying good reason to hold him, they wouldn't want to hold him. They would just say, just come back. We know you'll be back. We know where to find you. Turn in your passport. And, and we're not worried about you being violent or anyone being violent against you. Or that you would tamper with your case. We're good with that. But apparently there is that kind of a reason. That's the reason why he's still sitting in jail. There is no reason why he can't work from there. To do basic ministerial duties, assign, a list of people to become the municipal planning council, something like that. He could do those things, but he's not, and that's up to him.
Right, and like I mentioned, like you said, if there wasn't significant cause to try to hold him, and I really think one of the biggest things that they're concerned with is him trying to influence, people out on the street, people in the community that may know of something, and trying to influence those people with regards to what they may have already, made a statement about, or what they could possibly make a statement about or be called in to testify on, etc. They have significant reason to want to hold him. And if a judge is looking at this, and if a judge is looking at, whatever his defense attorney, his counsel is presenting, and if the judge is not saying, okay, hey, we're going to release you on a PR and turn in your passport, or we're going to put you on a, $25,000 bond or something like that, there's got to be something there that is substantiating the fact that they don't want to let him back out and have possible contact with someone that may have, or that this may have an influence on his case. So, like I said, just because he's the mayor, if he really is innocent, then that's great. And I'm a firm believer in that old saying that, if there's really not anything here, then they can't really convict you of anything. Unless somebody's actually just outright fabricated, the old saying, quote unquote, frame someone, they've either got a case or they don't have a case. And evidently the judge thinks that there's sufficient evidence, and it's strong enough evidence that there could be, tampering with possible witnesses or people who have already made statements. And just because he's the mayor, look, if he's really innocent, then he could take care of a bunch of it. Look, I'm sure that he could talk to DOC and say, hey, look, I'm not really going to ask for a whole lot special here, but if I could just, be given access to, enough stuff to be able to do some work from here or whatever, I'm sure he could get something accomplished.
Well, we have to put a period on it, because it's 4:59 and time for Fox News. There's no holding them back. Okay, thank you very much for your call.
You bet.
It's 4:59, time for Fox News and our halftime show. Do stay tuned. We'll be back with more talk.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
D.C. goes crazy for the Nationals. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News.
We're number one. What a time to be alive in Washington, D.C.
The Nationals beat the Houston Astros in Game 7 to claim the championship.
That's down the right field line into the corner. This ball is gone for a home run.
Joe Buck on Fox. Howie Kendrick with the two-run blast in the top of the 7th to give the Washington Nationals their first lead of the game. They would pull away with 3 more runs as the Nats defeat the Houston Astros 6-2 to take Game 7 of the World Series and become world champs for the first time in franchise history. It marks the first champion baseball team from D.C. since the Washington Senators back in 1924.
Fox's Matt Napolitano. The city will honor the Nationals with a parade on Saturday. The Pentagon releases a video of the raid in Syria that killed ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
The commander of CENTCOM says every aspect of the raid was planned in minute detail.
I can assure you that the plan was significantly more complex than that and designed to avoid detection by ISIS.
They also confirmed there were 11 children at that compound where Baghdadi was hiding and that he killed 2 of them when he detonated his vest, something that didn't come as a surprise. The Pentagon is also disclosing they reached out to Russia and to Turkey in advance of this operation in order to, they say, deconflict troop presence on the ground in the region and also avoid any logistical complications.
Fox's Jillian Turner. And crews getting a handle on the Kincaid fire in California that's burning in wine country.
This event will soon end, and we don't see any events on the horizon.
PG&E meteorologist Scott Strenfeld. Many fires, though, still burning, including 2 large ones in Los Angeles County, including the Getty fire that's burned 12 homes. America's listening to Fox News.
Did you know that home loan rates have plunged again? Would you like to take advantage of these lower rates to help lower your monthly payments? Refinancing doesn't have to be for another 30 years. It can be for 10, 15, or 20 years. It's up to you. Reduce your monthly payments. Pay off your loan earlier. At Bank Pacific, where we're open to closing your loan in a hurry.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Credit conditions apply.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with a true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine. A bistro look that feels like home. Their menu features local and traditional flavors with a twist. From their famous Kelaguen Hapa to fresh ahi poke salad and their award-winning barbecue ribs. Mezcla takes your favorite local dishes and serves them with extra flair that you'll only find at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Stop by their newest location in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon. For reservations, call 969-2652. Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
The full House votes today on a resolution to move the impeachment process forward.
Democrats say their newly proposed guidelines would make the impeachment inquiry process more open and fair.
And we are taking our responsibilities seriously, and that's what this resolution proves that.
House Rules Committee Chair Jim McGovern reviewing the language of the resolution over the objections of many Republicans. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
They're actually changing the process for the worst.
Under the resolution, the House Intelligence Committee and Democrat Chair Adam Schiff would continue to take the lead in the inquiry.
Fox's Tom Graham. Meantime, Democrats want to depose John Bolton next week, but an attorney for the former National Security Advisor says Bolton won't talk voluntarily, that it will take a subpoena. Prosecutors in California charge 5 members of a fraternity with the alcohol poisoning death of a fraternity brother.
18-year-old freshman Noah Domingo was found dead in January after a party at the off-campus Sigma Alpha Epsilon frat house for the University of California, Irvine. His blood alcohol level was .331, over 4 times the legal limit. But prosecutors say hazing was not involved in Domingo's death. The 5 frat brothers are all charged with misdemeanors for supplying the alcohol. One faces up to 18 months in jail if convicted, the others 6 months. The fraternity's Irvine chapter has since been disbanded. Tom Rigotti, Fox News.
And the number of people killed by a fire aboard a train in Pakistan keeps rising. It's reached 62, with many others in critical condition. Transportation officials say the fire started as passengers cooked breakfast on a gas stove a violation of train rules. And the Federal Reserve cut interest rates yesterday by 1/4 percentage point, and that pushed the S&P 500 to a record closed at 3,046. I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
The wait is almost over. The incredible iPhone 11 is making its debut at Beyond the Box in Tumon tomorrow. Be the first to experience new multiple lenses for dazzling photography options, low light, slow-mo selfies, 4K video, and way more new features. iPhone 11 sports longer battery life. Go all day on a single charge. This is the smartest iPhone ever with the A13 Bionic chip, 8.5 billion transistors, up to 1 trillion calculations per second. Give this iPhone the power to record 4K video, HDR at 60 frames a second, while boosting energy efficiency. What are you waiting for? See the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max tomorrow at Beyond the Box in Tumon by Underwater World across DFS.
Are you ready for some football? The Ray Gibson Show has got your fix every day with the Points NFL Pick'em contest. Get the latest updates as we check out the past week's performance and break down the upcoming action. Get your game on by calling the hotline at 888-TALK or sound off on Facebook Live at thepoint.gu. League members get a chance to win some awesome weekly prizes with a shot for your choice of a new GTA phone. The NFL Pick'em contest is brought to you by Current Guam with special thanks to GTA. Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome back to Tall Tales. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie, who will be back before Thanksgiving. And you can call in at 888-8255 if you've got something on your mind or if something we're saying here inspires you to share your comments with all the listening audience, whether the audience is on 93.3 or on Facebook Live. Got a caller, been patiently waiting on line 1. So let's go straight to the phones. Welcome to Tall Tales.
Hey, how's it, Daryl?
It's going all right. How's it with you today? Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween to you, man.
Watch out, man. The sun is going down. The ghouls are coming out.
Yeah.
You know,
the kids will be out, getting them treats for their parents and all that, because when they come home, the adults will be raiding their candy and stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I wanted to talk about the Johnny Mayor, and I heard the other caller, saying about why they're holding him. They're holding the mayor. They got him lock, stock, and barrel. They want him to talk, and I guess he's playing hardball because the way I see it, he was a kingpin in this drug trade. And we have a lot of instances where law enforcement are playing a role here in Guam with the drug trade, and it has to be stopped. And I'm glad that the federals is taking the reins of this, because every time the locals seem to get a case like this where there's a official involved or a law enforcement involved, they just get a spank on the hand and they get a misdemeanor charge. And they have to start getting serious with cases like this, to set an example.
Absolutely.
When you're law enforcement or when you're an official of the government or someone that's holding a high office, it don't matter if you're the president of a company or whatnot, and you're bringing in massive amounts of drugs and working in hand with these people, that you have to be held, to a higher standard, and you have to be punished even harder than the regular drug dealer. And it hasn't been happening here in Guam.
No, it hasn't.
the federal government has to take the role because people already are losing faith in the federal government. That they're not doing anything about law enforcement here in Guam, and a lot of times the federal government could have charged these officers and these law enforcement officials, but they chose not to. It's time for the federal government to step up and start charging law enforcement officials and don't let the Superior Court get them, because we already know, like what Mr. Bloss said, that he got spooled down there and he can do magic, and it just goes to show why things have been like this when they catch law enforcement involved with these kind of stuff.
Well, let's see how the federal court sorts it out.
Now, why these law enforcement when they're getting caught doing things that they're just getting a slap in the hand. It seems like there's a good old fellas system going on down there.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple of other cases already in federal court, and they're navigating through that. The one about the witness tampering.
Yes, with Mantanonia. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm just appalled because I can imagine these guys are retired already, and I can just imagine what they were doing when they had the power, with the badge. Now they still got power because they got people that are still in there. But imagine when they were still working. I mean, what were they doing? What kind of crimes were they committing? And I was very appalled now that Mr. Joey Talahi slapped the girl too.
Yep.
I mean, this is what I've been hearing. On the streets, and people talking that this thing with this drug mailbox has been going on ever since the Senator Talahi was the mayor up there at Jonia, and they just carried on with a blast.
Well, let's hope
I don't know how true that is, but word on the street is that this thing's been going on ever since Talahi was mayor, but now he's a senator.
Well, let's hope not. But if there's anyone's going to sort this out, it will not be the local officials or local law enforcement. It'll be the feds.
Darryl, I hope the governor, every time something like this comes up in her administration that has to do with law enforcement, that it is not investigated by the GPD and it is handed over to the federal government, because that the people already lost trust in this government in regards to law enforcement. And how things are handled when they are under investigation or they are indicted or go to court.
And
it's like they're running some kind of a secret society, and the CIA or some kind of a national security agency, when it comes to these officers, they kind of say nothing or whatever. We like to say that we're following California law. Now in the states, now, when an officer commits a crime or is under investigation, or after that, when the report is out, they let that thing out to the public. I don't know why here in Guam we're still protecting and we're still hiding information on cases against officers and all that. It seems like they're hired in the CIA over here.
Well, that's why we have to have the federal government step in and examine the administration of justice in the territory. This is a federally organized jurisdiction.
Yes.
And so we deserve that service. We deserve to have the attention of the federal court and federal investigation to look into what is going on here in the territory. When they don't, things get out of hand locally.
You know what was the laugh, Darryl? I couldn't stop laughing when Mr. Chong, the second highest law enforcement official, civilian law enforcement official, wanted to know who that police officer was, and he wants to investigate. I had a big laugh from that. I don't think GPD should even start investigating. I think they already should just leave the Fed, make the feds do it. And why does he want to know? Every time GPD knows something or they're gonna bust somebody or whatnot, it seems to all fall apart, and then these people never be brought to justice.
Well, you may have noticed that I really don't like talking about the procedures in court. I love talking about the procedures in the legislature and the procedures in the executive branch, right? The regulations or
that's where it's going to happen, the change right there. I mean, They need to make legislation and make this law enforcement more transparent. And the only reason why I'm saying that now is because when an allegation comes up with a police officer and they don't give out that information, other people might know information. And if that thing comes out, then other people might come forward and start saying what they know about a certain officer that is under investigation or was caught doing something. And maybe when they release that information, more people will come forward about that officer.
That is a shortcoming in this island, that the internal investigations they stand in for criminal justice proceedings, and it should not be that the Civil Service Commission or the internal affairs of Guam Police Department will override the laws that all of us have to follow.
Yes.
And when they're covering their own, it doesn't do any of us any good. It doesn't even do them good.
Yeah, it makes them, it's a liability for them.
Yes.
Imagine they keep doing something and they keep covering up, and then all of a sudden they do something really bad, and that person sues now, and then it comes out that he's been doing this and all that. The government is going to be held liable for that, because they didn't do nothing.
The worst part about it is that we have good men and women who are in uniform who are trying to enforce the law.
No doubt.
And
no doubt about it.
Oh, yes, right. No doubt. We have good people. But when the public loses faith and confidence in the Guam Police Department and the courts to bring lawbreakers to justice, whether it's in the community or within their own ranks, when we lose faith in that, then we're not going to call the police. We're not going to cooperate with the police because we don't know whether the guy that we're talking to is connected. And that is a shame, because how are they supposed to do their job if we don't have confidence in them?
You know what's sad, Darryl? This is what's sad. A lot of the good officers just stand by and watch the bad officers do these things, Would it be a pullover or a harassment of a person that's not doing nothing, and they just don't like the person due to some incident or some family member, and the good officers just stand around and don't do nothing, and they don't. I don't know if they realize that they are complicit when they make that officer do something wrong, and they are just standing around and not saying anything, and they're just as complicit as that officer that's doing the bad, even though they're not the one doing it. But if they are witnessing it and they do nothing about it, they are complicit in that crime.
Did you?
It's very sad, because when the good officers fear the bad officers, it's very bad for the community.
It is bad for them, and it's bad for the community. Did you happen to see a new advertisement that's been playing? It played a couple times during the World Series, and it has to do with I think it's maybe McDonald's, and it's about bullying. And then the person, there's some kids bullying one kid, and then there's adults sitting around and they're not saying anything. And then the person behind the counter is serving the hamburgers or whatnot, right? But he sees the burger is going to someone who's adult that's just sitting there and not speaking up. To stop the misbehavior of the bullies, right? And so he takes his fist and he mashes the sandwich and then wraps it back up and hands it. And it was saying that it at the end of this it's like a commercial, but it's they say 85% or 95% of the customers will complain about the sandwich that's been mashed, but only 15 or 12% will stand up for the kid that's being bullied.
But you know what, Darryl, what's happening in the States is that exactly what we're talking about. Where other officers, the good officers, aren't saying nothing, and they just are a witness to what the bad officer is doing. The community now is coming out back in the States now, and they're filming this, and if those good officers don't want to say anything due to retribution or being marked as a snitch or whatever in their own organization, the community now is coming up and standing up for people that are being abused by officers. And, it's a good thing, and it's a good thing that people have phones and they can they can take pictures and do videos when these officers are doing stuff that are against the law or stuff that they know the community knows that is wrong, and then they film it, and it's a good thing.
Only because there's technology now, the people have to go back and correct their own government? We're supposed to do that, but we're supposed to do that by elections. We're not supposed to have to do this to take pictures of our police doing their job. Remember, there was a police that confiscated the telephone of Atkins, right? And then the court said, you're not supposed to do that. You don't have the right to do that.
Yes. What amendment is that? I think the Fourth Amendment or something, right? Where they violated his Fourth Amendment rights or something.
Right, but that was how many months later that was ruled. But in the meantime, this stuff goes on, and then there's no executive direction.
What happened? What happened to the officer? Because now they knew that thing was wrong. That guy still had the same rank.
Yes.
He didn't get a dock and pay.
No,
nothing happened.
Nothing.
So what's the use of having all these policies and procedures when the chief of police or whoever is the one that's going to hold them accountable doesn't use the tools that is given to him by the legislature? And I think this is what has to happen. The legislature has to make a law that forces the hand of whoever is in charge to do the right thing. And if they don't do the right thing, then they get charged. And it's sad that we have to do this, but I think they need to make a law that has to force the hand of whoever's in charge.
The laws
discipline to do their job and discipline.
The law is already there. The law is already there. If they are witnesses, if it's illegal activity and it's happening by the police, and there's another policeman standing there, he is the witness. He is not only a witness, he is a co-conspirator.
Yes.
And if until these things are being charged, until there is an effort within the police department and with the courts,
eradicate
a willingness to address this, then this is going to continue, and it will erode confidence in the police and the courts.
Well, anyways, now what I wanted to say about the mayor is the reason why they're holding the mayor is they're pressuring him. They want him to talk, and I guess the mayor doesn't want to talk. Because if he would have just come clean and talk for his own good, in the end, because he's going to go to jail for this. If he doesn't come clean, they are going to hammer him with the full extent of the law.
You don't think that?
He doesn't play ball with them, and that's a tactic the federal government uses.
You don't
they
think
won't
that?
Let him out. If he starts cooperating with the federal government, then they'll release him.
Maybe.
But now he's not cooperating. That's why they're holding him. This is a tactic the federal government uses to make people talk.
You think he didn't talk already?
No.
And they have to hold him because otherwise he will be no good as a witness?
He's not cooperating. And when you don't cooperate with the federal government, they will not let you out. They're going to pressure you with all the tools they got, like what the Superior Court and Guam's court should use, which they don't, to make people cooperate. And that's a tactic that the federal government uses, because if this guy was cooperating, he would have already been out.
Yeah, I kind of think of it the other way, that he's cooperating and they have to hold on to him or else he won't be around as a witness.
That's not what usually happens. They get rewarded when they reward them when they talk, and he's not being rewarded.
Well,
and the case they got on him is very strong, and I think he's starting because I think in the beginning he didn't think the federal government had stuff on him, but I think when they played the recording and now he's finding out that they got a video on him, I think he's thinking really hard about cooperating.
Well, I want to thank you for your call. It's very stimulating. Thank you for your perspective on this. And thanks for holding on through the break.
Okay, Darryl, keep bringing those issues up, man, because people are real interested in this, and they got a lot of people that wanna speak out and they wanna know about this because a lot of people are affected by what's going on with this.
Well, I will keep talking about this. This isn't going away. We need to solve this stuff. There's no reason to bring it up. This is not entertainment. This is our community. And if we're not going to take charge of it, if we're not going to rescue it, then we are just letting it happen. It's 524. I've got a caller on line 2. Welcome to Tall Tales.
Hey, Darryl. How's it going?
Just fine. What's on your mind today?
Well, I wanted to talk about Ken's article, but before we get to that, I just wanted to comment that, whenever with any agency, whenever there's a failure, the way they look at it is first they look at if there were proper policies and procedures in place, and then if there were the employees trained on those, properly trained on those, and then if they were, the answer to that is yes. Then were they resourced to comply? And if they were, then were they unwilling to comply with the
law
procedures? Yeah. So that's the steps that they normally take when they investigate something like this.
Can I ask you
procedures in place?
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
If I did the same thing, are they going to ask me whether the procedures were in place? Did I understand them? Was I resourced?
Well, see, the way they hold an employee accountable is, did you violate the procedures, right?
Not the law.
Well, that's the law. The procedures will conform with the law, and then what do you call it when that's a whole different thing. Though I'll just step aside for a sec. It's a whole different thing violating a law versus procedures. I'm talking about, you guys were using the example of the confiscation of the guy's cell phone, right?
Right.
And that was found to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was a constitutional violation, but, there's the aspect of it. Was it a violation of department policies and procedures? And in order that the kind of questions that get asked is, was the procedures in place? Were they properly trained on the procedures? Because how can you ask someone to comply with something that's either not in place or that you weren't trained on?
Well, that's right. However, there's also a you're right. Yeah, they were using what they considered to be lawful authority to stop the filming of a government operation, and they charged him with interfering with a government operation. And
policies and procedures can be found to conflict with constitutional rights, and then there goes that policy and procedure that has to go. That it kills that policy and procedure, because you can't have a policy and procedure that conflicts with people's constitutional rights.
Yes, that's right.
So then it's a matter of correcting it from there.
Now, when we talk about the policies and procedures having to do with government employees, whether they work in law enforcement or they work in accounting or they work in anywhere, frequently they are, when they don't follow the procedures or when there's job action against them, they go through the civil service process. In law enforcement, they go through the internal affairs process. But over the years, the public is not satisfied with the outcome of those processes, and the system is not.
Action is the lack of information and education of the public on, what the policies are and whether they do or not conform with statutes and constitutional rights, so on and so forth. So, like the previous caller, he had a lot of opinions to make, but those were all based on just that, his opinions about what's going on with certain cases.
That's right.
Without knowing without having a working knowledge of the procedures and the system.
So if a person knows the procedures and can break a law, a clear law, but they aren't charged with the law because first they will be examined whether they followed the procedures and whether the person charging him followed the procedures, and when it eventually ends up in court, the court will rule on whether the procedures were followed, not whether the law was broken. This is my concern. We get off onto this sidebar discussion about whether the evidence was sufficient and whether the policies were followed to advance a job action, and the public itself is standing here victimized because the thing that they were doing is not it's lost. The primary concern is
liability and criminal liability. So regardless, if someone followed a procedure, a hypothetical procedure to the T, then they wouldn't be theoretically civilly liable, but they could still be criminally liable.
But they are not being charged with criminal liability because they are acting as a government employee, and they are protected under.
Could be, and if they weren't, then that would have been a prosecutorial discretion or decision made by whoever the charging authority was.
We have a lot of these questions hanging over our community these days, and we keep seeing them in the newspaper, but we don't see resolution. We don't see where the procedures are tightened up.
And part of the responsibility belongs to the media, too. The media reports on things, and they are not always accurate, and they're not always accurate in the facts or the rules and the policies and the law. And they could sort of have a certain tone to them, whether it's pro or anti-law enforcement or pro or anti-government. And so part of the feelings and the sentiments of the public stems from the way the media presents it.
If the media was to wait until they really had a good handle on the way that the government follows its own procedures and the civil service procedures and the procedures of that apply when the cases are brought into the courts, they would be working for the courts. They would be working at the Civil Service Commission. They wouldn't be working as reporters. The public has high expectations, but the expectations are not met.
They themselves don't have really a working knowledge of the system, and so they kind of add their I guess, assumptions and opinions to the reporting. That's what I'm saying.
Sure, and this means that there's nobody who is qualified to examine the activity of public officials and employees.
No, I've been in other places where the reporters are pretty, well versed on everything, from the way government works to the way the courts work to the way, But anyways, I wanted to talk about Ken's article.
Yeah, but I haven't gotten to it yet. I haven't started talking about it yet. And so if you bring it up, I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to talk about it because we're going to be talking about it, but we're not going to examine it in any kind of
Yeah, well, I just wanted to step back, from his article for a minute and question. He to me seems like a Johnny-come-lately, and he jumps on the scene, and he himself has said, I'm going to now get on this because people have been bugging me to get on this topic, right? And so there seems to be a shallowness in his depth of knowledge on what's going on. And the first thing I would try to challenge in his narrative is, where does he get this idea that we a body politic has to be ready for independence? Where did that come from? Whose narrative is that? It's a fundamental right. There's no condition precedent to any to granting someone a fundamental right. You have this fundamental right, but you can't have it until you prove to me that you can have it. No, it's either a fundamental right or it's not. So, and then to answer his question, or not to answer his question, but to discuss that a little further, we're not ready. Well, nobody's ever going to do anything if they always feel they're not ready. Nobody ever feels ready to do something. And then if we compare all the other former colonies in the region, government of Guam is way more advanced than all the other colonies in the region. So they weren't ready, but yet here they are. They're independent. Palau, FSM, RMI, a bunch of others, So where did this notion come from that we have to prove to anybody that we're ready? It's a fundamental right. There's no condition precedent.
I think I can probably, if I had a few moments here, find it in the insular cases.
Right.
The reason why Guam was not given a
courts, though, but this is a political question. Why are the courts setting conditions for a body politic to assert their right their fundamental right to self-government.
Okay, let's walk through this because I can answer this. Not for Ken, but I can just answer it as best from the basic stuff I've got within my hands. One is when the Treaty of Paris was signed, it said that Congress would make the rules and for the native inhabitants. And that was for all of the colonies that U.S. acquired from Spain. So, can we come back to this in a moment? Let's take a break here, and we'll come right back to this very same subject right after these messages.
When you think about better water, think Kinetico softened water. Kinetico water conditioners work like no other, supplying a continuous flow of luxuriously soft water without disruption and without use of electricity. After all, better water flows from better thinking. Kinetico.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water. Call American Water Tech at 649-2301 or email info@americanwatertech.com.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mescla. Try their featured special for October. 3 cups chicken, an iconic Taiwanese dish, boneless chicken, sauteed with ginger, chilies, star anise, scallions, basil, green beans, and a sweet soy mixture. Served with your choice of starch. Visit Mescla in Agotnya and now in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
Welcome back to Tall Tales. It's 5:37, and we're just talking about the question of where did this notion come from that body politic has to be ready, and that is, I'll just kind of just touch on this topic. First off, it was in the Treaty of Paris. The King of Spain turned over the people and the territories under its jurisdiction to the United States, and in the treaty that was ratified by the Senate, the United States government assumed responsibility for these areas and said, yes, Congress will decide, make all needful rules for the inhabitants of these territories, of these lands. Then the Congress didn't make any rules. And the way that they had to move forward after a couple of years, or after a year, it's a couple of years actually, was first off, Congress authorized the president to manage and to recommend what to do with these colonies, and it was a big debate. But some of the questions about how to administer the colonies were taken to the court, and the court said, yeah, well, Congress hasn't made any statement, any policy on the territories, and so we're going to rule on how you are going to administer laws like tax laws and intercoastal shipping and things like this. There's a number of test cases that were all brought at the same time in early 1901. And those are the ones that are grouped together called the insular cases. And every other case after that had to do with the territories, and they go back to those rulings until Congress speaks.
And
then
at the time, and even before the insular cases, these were acceptable in the international community Today,
it didn't matter. It has nothing to do with international. There was no international community until the United Nations, and even at that was established by the United States. We basically dictated that, and that was tried in World War I as a League of Nations, and the United States didn't go along with it, even though we drafted it, and then we wrote the UN Charter. And then we exempted ourselves from the charter. But even Puerto Rico was kept. Cuba, Puerto Rico got citizenship in 1921, and Cuba was set free. The Philippines in 1935 was given its independence, 10 years to be implemented 10 years later. And that was way before we knew we were going to go to war with Japan. But the Congress considered Guam to be just United States Naval Station Guam that happened to have people on it. It was not Guam, a body politic. It was a naval base that had people living on it. And then and you look at the insular cases covered all of these. The president said, this is the way I want to govern this. This is the way I want to govern that. This is the way I want to govern the other. And under the insular cases, everything held together. Then, when we got to the Organic Act in 1950, still, it created a federal government appendage or instrumentality for the civilians of Guam, inhabitants of Guam. But it did not say, this is the government of Guam. It is the government of the United States for the native inhabitants of Guam. That is what it really is. But nowhere in the Organic Act does it say these people they are the government of this land. They are the government. It is the government of these people for themselves, for their activities, but it is not a government that has jurisdiction over any federal agency or has jurisdiction over any federal land, which includes the land. It's just to regulate their activities amongst themselves. But it is something that we have provided. And we don't even, we will still allow the Secretary of Interior and the Congress to override any law that the legislature passes, and we will continue to appoint the governor. And that was up until 1970. So we're talking about, except for the wartime years, except for the time of the Japanese occupation, we're talking about 65 years of education and living cheek to jowl with the United States citizens and processes in education. But still, it is up to the United States government.
There's always been a movement since 1898 by locals to try to assert self-governance.
But it's not a body politic.
Right, but still, the fundamental rights of a group of people, today, if we were to try something like that, like we did back then, that would be unacceptable.
There is no recognized group of people. That's why we're having the problem with the native inhabitant definition versus all voters who are eligible in any election.
But why is it not recognized? Like you said, the U.S. created a charter and then accepted itself. It's only not recognized because those with power refuse to recognize it. That doesn't mean we don't exist.
And you don't think
recognized.
And you don't think that Ken Leon Guerrero recognizes this, understands it? You think he's shallow?
No, what I'm saying is his assertion is that we're not ready. We're not. Every place that you go has problems. If we apply his standards, the United States should be a colony then, because all the problems that he's talking about with government of Guam it's greater in the United States, both on the federal and the state levels.
Well, let's examine
like New Jersey. Look at places, like Washington D.C.
Let's examine. This is a really good spot. This is a good discussion. Let's examine how this can, how he can be right and you can be right. Have the people of Guam shown that they have a serious government?
Back to my original challenge of that narrative, where does that standard come from? Why? You know, those are all created by the power, right?
Well, I don't work for the...
The power doesn't make fundamental rights. Fundamental rights just exist.
That's right, but that's right. But we have people who are specialists in the affairs of government and the relationship with the federal government, and have degrees in law and economics.
And it would be so hypocritical of the United States to say to us, as they have, you guys aren't ready, because that's exactly what England said to, you know. And I understand during the Revolution, the Revolutionary War, there were a lot of people that were loyalists to England.
Then why is it? Yes, but look at the people we have
as one of those loyalists.
Let's take a look at the people that we have right now in office. Do you think that those people who are right now in office are not aware of their place in the federal government? And they continue to act as if they are in charge of a government that represents the native inhabitants of Guam. By law, they cannot. By court ruling, they've been told they cannot. They can only represent all the voters of Guam as were qualified in the last election. But so they're not able to...
When you go to a place that is steeped in tradition, and, you know, anytime you try to superimpose any kind of system and cookie cutter it to any other place, not just Guam, they're going to style it, and it's going to be have a little bit different from what was intended. You know, it's always going to end up a little bit different. It's always going to be influenced by the local culture, and that's exactly, you know, a lot of people complain about how Guam does things. Well, welcome to Guam.
But,
you know,
but the people...
We're not perfect. We're not perfect. We're, you know, by all means, you know,
our
far from perfect.
Point
to me, where's that perfect utopia?
I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking to get rid of the fuzzy thinking, and get rid of the terms of art, and get rid of the politicking, and get rid of the building of getting rid of the building of political futures and taking of government salary money while playing a game with the people of Guam. If they talk straight to us, they would stand up and say, "We are not allowed to pursue this, but you must."
Yeah, I wish the same of the U.S. Congress.
But you must. Congress has its own job. Delegate St. Nicholas has a job that's defined of what he can do. Once he takes the oath, he is a member of the federal legislative branch. He is not a member of the federal executive branch. When the governor and the senators take their oath of office, they are members of the federal executive branch. They are implementing the Organic Act. They are not implementing the wishes and desires of the native inhabitants of Guam as defined under the Organic Act. They are implementing federal policy.
If Guam is getting ready to be self-governing, then, you know, why do we have to emulate some other place? Why can't Guam be for Guam?
Our leaders, governor, legislature, are supposed to be clear that they are not the way to go forward through them. They have a job to do. And I'm not saying that they don't have a job to do, but one of the jobs they are not allowed to do is self-determination. The people of Guam, as defined and under the Organic Act and under the Treaty of Paris, as defined by the federal government, by treaty and by law, they must stand for themselves and not expect the federal government, as implemented through the Organic Act and the government of Guam, to stand for them, because they're not allowed to. Do you understand that part? And that is what Ken is saying.
Yeah, the call dropped.
Oh,
That was
Gosh.
Pete. That was Pete. Call
That
just
was
dropped.
that was Pete?
But we got Ken on line 1, though.
Oh. Are you calling to tell me that I'm putting words in your mouth, Ken?
No, I thought you did an excellent job summarizing, because the whole point, as you very eloquently outlined, it is not the government's job to do it. It's the people's job to make a determination and submit a petition to Congress, and then Congress will weigh in on the merits of the petition and the validity of the petition. And
So
that's the only way things will change.
can I publicly and in front of everybody here listening to Tall Tales today and watching on Facebook Live, can I actually say that it looks like you and Robert Underwood are very, very close in your positions and in your intent?
Yes, we are. We're just looking at it from different perspectives. But as we both say, it has to be a human, a people-driven initiative that follows the rules that were laid out by Congress. And there are not many rules. You know, there's only 2 major rules. The first major rule is that all eligible voters must participate. The second, actually there's 3. The second one is that a majority of eligible voters must participate, and they must have 3 options: statehood, independence, or no change. Those are the only 3 options that Congress is allowing. And then the third option is that a majority of those who vote must one option. Now, when Puerto Rico tried the first couple of times, they didn't hit the 50% mark, +1. The third time they voted, they hit, they only had 20% of eligible voters vote. So Congress disqualified it on that basis. So of the 3 efforts that have been done in Puerto Rico, 2 were disqualified by Congress. They were voided because they did not meet the requirement that the options, the 3 options were offered.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time they didn't meet the participation requirement, which is what the Davis Act is all about.
Let's continue this after a break, okay, Ken?
You got it.
Okay, stay with us, and we'll be right back with more Tall Tales and Ken Leon Guerrero.
The wait is almost over. The incredible iPhone 11 is making its debut at Beyond the Box in Tumon tomorrow. Be the first to experience new multiple lenses for dazzling photography options, low light, slow-mo selfies, 4K video, and way more new features. iPhone 11 sports longer battery life. Go all day on a single charge. This is the smartest iPhone ever with the A13 Bionic chip, 8.5 billion transistors, up to 1 trillion calculations per second. Give this iPhone the power to record 4K video, HDR at 60 frames a second, while boosting energy efficiency. What are you waiting for? See the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max tomorrow at Beyond the Box in Tumon by Underwater World across DFS.
In life, we all have the ability to make a difference, to make an impact on someone's life. As we look around us, time never stops, but we are filled with endless moments of gratitude. The art of giving is incorporated in so many different ways. At Guam Gift Baskets, we want to be able to express your gratitude and love to those who you care about. Show your appreciation with a gift made with love this holiday season. Visit our website at guamgiftbaskets.com. See the smiles, touch their hearts, feel the experience.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Well, Ken, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you want to continue?
Yeah, I wanted to, Peter was bringing up these qualifications that I put down. They're not qualifications. Those are just pragmatic benchmarks that we as a people should hit before we go to Congress and petition them. Because when we go to Congress, we're going to be saying, in essence, we, the people of Guam, feel we are ready to govern ourselves in a new political status. Well, what kind of credibility are we going to have when we go to the Congress to petition them, and then they're going to learn that, we're carrying a debt load that is almost at the edge of Puerto Rico quality? What are they going to say when they look at us and see that over half of our organizations of government in Guam are under federal court receiverships? What are they going to say when they look at the fact that we're using child support money to make government payroll? See, there's a lot of things that when we go before Congress to petition them, we want to be wearing our best clothes. And if we had credible government that the residents trust, because right now the majority of the residents live in fear of their government. If we had a sound economic footprint, and we had a government that was able to live within its means, and we had a population that trusted our government leaders. But if someone from Congress just read the news over the past 6 months, what are they going to look at? Our hospitals in danger of being decertified. Our elected leaders are shipping drugs through the mail and using their elected offices and their appointed offices to bypass DEA screening to get packages of meth onto the island.
And we don't know locally. We have to wait until the FBI is the one to do it, even though there's probably 20 people running around who are directly involved.
I know, but I'm just talking about the passport.
No, I'm saying that it wouldn't have even been in the paper if it wasn't for the feds to step up, even though it's been going on for a while.
Yeah, that's true, too.
And that's in the paper.
You see, that's why in my article about pragmatic approach, it's all about how do we as a people look to the Congress. We're the only territory that doesn't have its own constitution. We're the only territory that's wedded to the U.S. IRS system because our people don't trust our politicians and government bureaucrats to run a Guam system. How's that going to play when we go, hey, we're ready to be free, but we don't trust, we don't have a tax code, and we don't trust making one for our own people. We don't trust our politicians. We don't trust the people that are running our government agencies, but we want to be free. That's not going to fly.
There's another part I want to bring up here because it has to be said, and that is that this native inhabitant vote, it's clear that it cannot be conducted by the government of Guam, but it is not the final say. The final say is Congress's. And if we don't have a vote that includes everyone, Congress won't accept it. But that does not mean that there is no native inhabitant vote that should occur. It should occur, but it cannot be billed as the final word. It is not the final word. It is just one of the words. But we have to have a vote that Dave Davis will participate in. And we have to have a vote that Dave Davis will not participate in, because we will take the results of both of those votes and the pragmatic measures that you have pointed out, and then we go to Congress and say, we're ready.
Yeah. It's just a small list when you look at it.
It's a list of
but
three.
What you outlined is a process that does not have any government involvement. Therefore, on the voting,
on the native inhabitant vote, that's right. It has to be done. It has to be done separately, and it has to be done in a way that would pass the smell test, basically.
Yeah, it would be credible to Congress.
Yeah. You have Deloitte,
that's the key.
Hire Deloitte to do it. It's like that kind of a thing. And that's why these issues are not knock them down, drag them out. This is like a defining moment. It's not. We need to address all those other things in the government of Guam that need to be addressed that our leaders are ignoring or not willing to work on.
Well, that's why I raised hell for over a year on the vote, and the survey. I mean, they refused to do a survey. You know, that's a very important first step.
But also just do the things that need to be done when you're writing bills and doing oversight at the legislature and directing your directors to do this, that, and the other. Ken, we're going to continue this, I'm sure. Bless your heart. Thank you for calling in.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Yep. Okay, it's 5:59 and a half. It's just time for me to say goodbye. Please don't run over any of the trick-or-treaters this evening. Have a good time. Watch out for the little ones. And we'll see you on the other side tomorrow morning with Ray Gibson, and then tomorrow afternoon, 4 o'clock with me. Have a good evening, everyone.